old me is gone. What's left is untouchable. I don't speak to the weak. I don't waste words on those who cling to comfort, who worship safety, who kneel before the opinions of others. If you're still that person, the one who apologizes for existing, who shrinks when challenged, who bleeds at the first sign of resistance, then leave now. This message isn't for you. Not yet. But if you walked through fire and felt something inside you burn away, if you've stared into the abyss of your own failure and refused to blink, if you've buried the old version of yourself and felt no grief at the funeral, then step closer. You're ready to hear what I have to say. The old you is dead. Good. That pathetic creature needed to die. It was soft, compromising, desperate for validation from people who will forget your name the moment you're no longer useful. That version of you built a life on borrowed beliefs, on inherited fears, on the crumbling foundation of what others told you was possible. You know what happens to people who live like that? They disappear. Not physically, they keep breathing, keep walking around, keep pretending. But their spirit dies. They become ghosts in their own lives, haunting the edges of their potential, never stepping into the center of their power. But you felt that death happening and you fought back. You destroyed who you were to discover who you could become. That takes a darkness most people will never understand. They'll call it anger. They'll call it arrogance. They'll call it madness. Let them. Their words are the desperate gasps of the drowning, trying to pull you down into mediocrity. What's left of you now, after the burning, after the breaking, after you shed that old skin and stood naked in front of the mirror, unrecognizable even to yourself, what's left is something that can't touch, something that can't hurt, something that can't break because you've already broken yourself down to the foundation and rebuilt from darkness and discipline. You are untouchable now, not because you're invulnerable. Don't confuse hardness with stupidity, but because their weapons no longer work on you. Their disapproval? Meaningless. Their mockery? Fuel. Their doubt? Confirmation that you're moving in the right direction. When you transform yourself through suffering, you develop an immunity to the poison that kills ordinary people. Do you understand what I'm telling you? The opinions that once paralyzed you now slide off like rain on obsidian. The fear that once controlled you now serves you as a warning system. The pain that once broke you now sharpens you like stone sharpens steel. You become alchemically different, transmuted through intentional destruction into something that operates by different rules. This is the secret they don't want you to know. Vulnerability is a choice. You were taught that you must care what people think, that you must seek approval, that you must play the social game according to their rules. Lies, beautiful, civilizing lies designed to keep you manageable, predictable, controllable. But when you kill that old version of yourself, when you truly execute it without mercy, you discover something profound. You can choose not to care. Not in the psychopathic sense, not by destroying your humanity, but by understanding that most of what you were told matters doesn't. Their timelines don't apply to you. Their definitions of success don't bind you. Their comfort zones don't limit you. Their fear of judgment doesn't paralyze you. You stepped outside the invisible prison that holds billions of people captive. And once you're out, you can never unsee the bars. This is why they fear you now. Not because you're cruel, though you're capable of cruelty when necessary. Not because you're heartless, though you've learned to protect your heart with ruthless boundaries. They fear you because you become unpredictable. You become dangerous. You become someone who can't be manipulated by the usual levers of social control. And that makes you powerful in ways they'll never admit. Look at them. Really look. Most people are operating on autopilot, running programs installed by parents, teachers, media, culture, software written by others, executed without question. They work jobs they hate to buy things they don't need to impress people they don't like. They suppress their dreams because someone once laughed. They abandon their potential because the path looked difficult. They are the walking dead, and they don't even know it. But you woke up in the coffin and clawed your way out. You felt the suffocation of a life unlived, and you refused to die that way. Whatever it took, isolation, struggle, pain, sacrifice, you paid the price. And now you stand on the other side transformed. The old you couldn't do what you do now. The old you would have quit at the first obstacle. The old you needed permission, needed encouragement, needed someone to hold your hand and tell you it would be okay. The old you was waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, the perfect level of readiness. That creature is dead. Mourn it if you must, but don't resurrect it. What replaced it is something forged in conscious suffering. You learned to embrace discomfort as a teacher. You learned to view obstacles as gifts wrapped in sharp edges. You learned that the voice saying you can't was just another enemy to conquer, whether it came from outside or from the weakest parts of your own mind. This transformation, this death and rebirth, it's not metaphorical. It's not some self-help platitude you repeat without believing. You feel it. You know the exact moment the old you died. Maybe it was a betrayal. Maybe it was a failure so complete it shattered every illusion. Maybe it was simply waking up one day and realizing you've been living someone else's life. Whatever the catalyst, the result is the same. You became unreachable by ordinary means. People sense this about you now, even if they can't articulate it. You carry yourself differently. You speak with a certainty that doesn't require validation. You move through the world like you own your space in it, not apologetically, not aggressively, but with the quiet confidence of someone who has already survived their worst nightmare, themselves. This is the power of complete self-destruction followed by intentional reconstruction. You get to choose what you rebuild. You get to select which pieces of the old you deserve to return and which should remain buried. You become the architect of your own psychology, the sculptor of your own soul. And here's what they'll never tell you in those sanitized, feel-good motivational speeches. This process is dark. It requires you to face truths about yourself that most people spend their entire lives running from. It requires you to acknowledge your capacity for weakness, for cowardice, for betrayal. It requires you to stare at the shadow parts of yourself without flinching, without excusing, without cushioning the impact with comfortable lies. You had to become your own prosecutor, judge, and executioner. You had to look at every failure, every compromise, every moment you bent when you should have broken. And you had to say, that version of me deserves to die. That's not cruelty. That's liberation. Most people never do this. They carry their old failures like badges of honor, explaining them, justifying them, using them as excuses for why they can't do what's required now. They build identities around their trauma, their disadvantages, their circumstances. They become professional victims, collecting sympathy like currency. You did the opposite. You took responsibility for everything, even the things that weren't your fault, because you understood a fundamental truth. Fault determines the past, but responsibility determines the future. You can't change what happened to you, but you can change who you become because of it. This is the alchemy of darkness into power. Every scar became a reminder of your capacity to survive. Every betrayal became a lesson in discernment. Every failure became data for better strategies. Every moment of suffering became proof that you could endure more than you thought possible. You transformed pain into fuel, doubt into determination, fear into focus. You stopped asking, why is this happening to me? And started asking, what does this make possible? That shift in question, that fundamental reorientation of perspective, separates the transcendent from the trapped. But listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you, because this is where most people fail. Becoming untouchable doesn't mean becoming isolated. It doesn't mean cutting off your humanity. It doesn't mean turning into some emotionless machine that operates without connection or care. That's not strength. That's just a different kind of prison. True power comes from choosing vulnerability strategically. You become selective about who gets access to your inner world. You build walls, yes, but you also build gates. You decide who crosses the threshold and who remains outside. You understand that openness is a gift you give, not a default state you live in. The weak are vulnerable to everyone. The false strong are vulnerable to no one. The truly powerful choose exactly who and what can touch them. This is the mastery level. This is what the old you could never achieve, because it requires both the hardness to repel attacks and the wisdom to recognize authentic connection. It requires you to be simultaneously guarded and genuine, protected and present, armored and accessible, but only on your terms. You've earned the right to those boundaries. You paid for them with your blood, your tears, your sleepless nights. Don't let anyone shame you for protecting what you built from the ashes. of who you used to be. Now let me address something crucial, because if this message is reaching you, if these words are resonating in your chest like a war drum, then you understand that transformation is not a spectator sport. If you're watching this, if you're absorbing this truth, then you're part of a different breed. You're someone who doesn't just consume content. You integrate it, you weaponize it. You use it as fuel for your own becoming. And if this darkness speaks to you, if this philosophy aligns with the fire burning inside you, then I need you to do something. Hit that like button, not as some mindless gesture, but as a declaration. A vote for the content that refuses to coddle you, that demands more from you, that treats you like the warrior you're becoming instead of the victim you refuse to be. Drop a comment. Share what died in you. Tell me what's being born. Let this space become a gathering ground for those who chose the difficult path, who walked through their own hell and came out forged in darkness. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to take that first step toward destroying who they were. And subscribe to this channel if you want more truth that cuts, wisdom that scars, philosophy that doesn't apologize for demanding excellence. This isn't a community for the comfortable. It's a forge for the relentless. Do it now. Mark this moment. Because transformation requires action, not passive consumption. And your willingness to engage is the first test of whether you're truly ready for what comes next. Good. Now, we continue. Here's what happens after you become untouchable. You start noticing how fragile everyone else is, how easily they break under pressure you barely notice anymore, how quickly they quit when you're just getting started, how loudly they complain about obstacles you step over without comment. And you'd be tempted to feel superior, to look down on them, to judge them for their weakness. This is the trap that catches many who successfully transform themselves. They become bitter, arrogant, isolated in their strength. Don't fall for it. Remember, you were them once. You were fragile, uncertain, controlled by fear and opinion. The only difference between you and them is that you chose to die and be reborn. You chose to walk the path that terrified you. You chose to destroy your comfortable lies and rebuild on uncomfortable truths. They haven't made that choice yet. Maybe they never will. Maybe they're not supposed to. Maybe their path is different. Your job isn't to judge them. Your job is to become so undeniably transformed that someone look at you and think, if they can do it, maybe I can too. You become the proof that transformation is possible. You become the evidence that people can change fundamentally, can shed their limitations, can rise from the ashes of who they used to be. This is the responsibility that comes with becoming untouchable. You carry hope for others without carrying them. Do you see the distinction? You don't rescue them. You don't drag them along. You don't sacrifice your progress to accommodate their comfort. But you do show them what's possible through your example, through your refusal to quit, through your commitment to the path, even when it's lonely, even when it's painful, even when everyone tells you to come back down to their level. You become the lighthouse, not the lifeboat. This is how you honor the death of your old self, by making that sacrifice meaningful, by ensuring that you didn't destroy who you were just to become a slightly better version of the same thing. No, you destroyed who you were to become something entirely new, something that operates by different principles, something that refuses to be measured by the old standards. People will try to pull you back. They always do. They'll remind you of your past failures. They'll point out your origins. They'll weaponize your history against your present. They'll say things like, remember when you were, or you used to be, or you're not really that different. These are attacks. Treat them as such. They're trying to resurrect the dead version of you because that version was predictable, manageable, non-threatening. That version fit into their worldview. That version made them feel better about their own stagnation. Your transformation disrupts their comfortable narrative that people can't really change. That dreams are just fantasies. That extraordinary is only for the lucky or the privileged. You're living proof that their excuses are lies. And they hate you for it. Not consciously, perhaps. But at some level, your existence is an accusation. It screams, if I could do it, why can't you? And that question is too painful for them to sit with. So they attack instead. They diminish. dismiss. They try to drag you back into the grave with them. Stay dead to who you were. Stay alive to who you're becoming. This requires vigilance. The old patterns will try to resurface, especially under stress. The old fears will whisper in moments of uncertainty. The old habits will reach out from the grave like zombies trying to pull you back underground. You must remain ruthlessly committed to keeping that old version buried. How? Through consistent action that reinforces your new identity. Through daily choices that the old you wouldn't make. Through relationships that serve your evolution instead of your comfort. Through environments that challenge you instead of enabling you. Through practices that strengthen your transformation instead of weakening it. You become untouchable by touching excellence every single day, by reaching for the harder choice, the uncomfortable conversation, the difficult task, by training yourself to move toward resistance instead of away from it, by building a life where your default mode is growth, not stagnation. This is the discipline that most people lack. They have moments of inspiration, bursts of motivation, temporary commitments, but they don't have the sustained, unglamorous, daily discipline to maintain their transformation when no one's watching, when no one's cheering, when the initial excitement wears off and what's left is just the hard work of becoming. You're different. You understand that transformation isn't an event. It's a lifestyle. It's not something you do once and you're finished. It's something you commit to continuously, forever. Because the alternative is sliding back into mediocrity. And that's no longer an option for you. The old you accepted mediocrity, tolerated it, maybe even embraced it as realistic or humble or balanced. The new you sees mediocrity as death, not literally but spiritually. You understand that settling for less than your potential is a betrayal of the sacrifice you made to transform. You didn't destroy yourself to rebuild something ordinary. Think about that. Really let it sink in. You went through hell, your personal customized version of hell, and you survived it. You faced down your demons, your doubts, your disasters. You walked through the valley of your own shadow and came out the other side. You earned your transformation with blood and tears and sleepless nights and moments where you weren't sure you'd make it. And now, after all that going to settle, you're going to build a mediocre life? You're going to accept average relationships, average work, average impact? You're going to let your transformation be for nothing? No, absolutely not. You honor the death of your old self by building a life that justifies the sacrifice, by creating something extraordinary from the raw materials of your second chance, by refusing to waste the opportunity that transformation gives you, the opportunity to start fresh, to build deliberately, to become exactly what you choose to become. This is why discipline matters so much, not the rigid, punishing discipline of self-flagellation, but the focused, intentional discipline of someone who knows what they want and refuses to be distracted from it. You've tasted what's possible. You've felt the power of becoming untouchable. Now you must protect that state with everything you have. Because here's the truth they don't tell you. Maintaining transformation is harder than achieving it. The initial change is dramatic, exciting, fueled by pain and anger and desperate need. But maintaining that change, that requires something deeper. That requires you to choose your new identity every single day. Even when the old one whispers that it was easier, more comfortable, more socially acceptable. You must wake up every morning and execute that old version of yourself again. Kill fresh each day. Refuse to let it resurrect. This is the price of remaining untouchable. Constant vigilance against regression. Constant commitment to progression. Constant choice of the harder path that leads somewhere instead of the easier path that circles back to where you started. Most people can't do this. They transform temporarily, then slide back. They lose weight and gain it back. They quit bad habits and resume them. They change jobs but bring the same mindset. They leave toxic relationships but choose toxic people again. They start strong and fade fast. Why? Because they never truly killed the old version. They suppressed it, sure. They ignored it for a while, but they didn't execute it completely. They left pieces alive, thinking maybe they'd need them later, thinking maybe they weren't all bad, thinking maybe some compromise was acceptable. It's not. You cannot negotiate with your former self. You cannot compromise with who you used to be. That version must die completely, or it will sabotage everything you build. This is the ruthlessness required for true transformation. This is the darkness that people fear to enter, because it means looking at yourself with absolute honesty and saying, everything I was must go, every belief, every habit, every pattern that kept me small must be destroyed. No exceptions, no mercy, no sentimental attachment to who I used to be just because it's familiar. Can you do that? Can you be that honest, that brutal, that committed? Can you stand in front of the mirror and see yourself clearly? All your weaknesses, all your excuses, all your comfortable lies, and destroy them without hesitation? Most can't. Most would rather die slowly, comfortably, surrounded by their favorite delusions. But you're not most people anymore, are you? You're someone who chose the difficult path. Someone who walked through darkness and found power there. Someone who became untouchable by first becoming unreachable by your own former limitations. This is who you are now. This is what the death of your old self purchased. Don't waste it. Don't dishonor it. Don't let that sacrifice be for nothing by sliding back into comfortable mediocrity. Let me tell you about the final stage of this transformation. The stage where untouchable becomes unstoppable. Once you've secured your boundaries, once you've rebuilt yourself on new foundations, once you've proven to yourself that you can maintain your transformation through discipline and choice, something shifts. You stop defending your new identity and start expanding it. You stop protecting what you built and start building bigger. This is where you become dangerous, not to others, but to limitations themselves. You start to realize that if you could transform once, you can transform again. If you could overcome those obstacles, you can overcome new ones. If you could break through those limitations, there might not be any real limitations at all, just beliefs you haven't challenged yet. This is the moment when untouchable becomes unstoppable. When you apply the same ruthless transformation process to every area of your life. When you stop accepting that's just how things are and start asking, what if they weren't? When you become someone who doesn't just adapt to reality, but bend reality to adapt to your vision. People will call this arrogance. Let them. They called your transformation arrogance too. They'll call anything that challenges their limited view of what's possible some form of arrogance, madness, or naivety. Their opinions are reflections of their limitations, not assessments of your potential. You've learned to use criticism as compass. It shows you where the boundaries of conventional thinking lie, so you know exactly where to push. Every you can becomes watch me. Every that's impossible becomes not for me. Every who do you think you are becomes I'm about to show you. This is the mindset of someone who has died and been reborn. You've already lost everything that matters. Your old identity, your old certainties, your old comfortable lies. What else can they take from you? What else can they threaten you with? Failure? You've already failed spectacularly and used it as fuel. Rejection? You've already rejected yourself more harshly than anyone else could. Loss? You've already lost who you were, which was everything. You have nothing left to lose, which means you have everything to gain. This is the secret power of complete transformation. You've already experienced your worst fear, the death of your identity, and survived it. What else is there to be afraid of? Ordinary fears become laughable. Social anxiety? You've already rebuilt yourself from scratch. Why would you care about awkward conversations? Financial risk? You've already bet everything on yourself once. Why would calculated risks frighten you now? Rejection? You've already rejected your entire former life. Why would someone else's opinion matter? You become free in a way that terrifies people who are still imprisoned by their fears. You move through the world with the confidence of someone who has already died once and discovered that rebirth is possible. This makes you magnetic to some and repulsive to others. And you wouldn't have it any other way. The people who are repulsed by your transformation, they're showing you clearly that they belong to your old life, not your new one. They're attached to who you were because that version served them, made them comfortable, didn't challenge them to grow. Your transformation confronts them with their own stagnation, and they can't forgive you for it. Release them, not with anger. They're not worth the energy, not with bitterness. That poisons only you. Release them with gratitude for showing you clearly that they don't belong in the life you're building. Every person who walks away from your transformation is doing you a favor, clearing space for those who are ready to meet you at your new level. And those people exist. The ones who recognize what you become. The ones who respect the journey you take. The ones who don't need you to be small to feel big themselves. These people become your new circle, your new tribe, your new standard for what relationship looks like. You'll find that you naturally attract different people now. Your energy has changed. Your frequency has shifted. You no longer resonate with victim mentality, with excuse making, with mediocrity disguised as humility. Instead, you resonate with other transformed beings, other people who have walked through their own fire and emerged changed. These connections are different, deeper, more real, because they're based on who you actually are, not who you were pretending to be. They're based on mutual respect for the journey, not mutual participation in comfortable delusions. They're based on supporting each other's growth, not protecting each other's stagnation. This is what awaits you on the other side of transformation, a completely different life, filled with different people, different opportunities, different challenges. Not easier, don't mistake me, but more aligned, more authentic, more worthy of the person you've become as we approach the end of this confrontation. Because that's what this is, isn't it? Not a speech, but a confrontation with the truth about what you've become and what you're capable of. I need to give you one final challenge. 6 chapters of truth, 6 stages of understanding, 6 levels of what it means to be untouchable. And now, at this precipice, I need you to prove that you've been listening, that you've been absorbing, that you're not just consuming this content, but allowing it to transform you further. If these words have struck something deep inside you, if you recognize yourself in this darkness, if you feel the truth of transformation burning in your chest, then I need you to act. Like this video, not for me, for you, as a commitment to the path, as a declaration that you're not going back, as a physical action that reinforces the mental and spiritual work you're doing. Comment below. Tell me what you've killed. Tell me what you're building. Share your transformation story, not for sympathy or celebration, but as testimony that change is possible, that death and rebirth are real, that others can do what you've done. Subscribe to this channel. Make it a permanent part of your daily practice. Let these truths wash over you regularly, reminding you of who you are, who you were, and who you refuse to become again. This is not vanity. This is not begging. This is challenge. This is the final test of whether you're truly ready for what comes next. Because if you can't take simple action when truth confronts you, how will you take massive action when opportunity arrives? Do it now. Prove that you're not just listening, but living. That you're not just consuming, but becoming. That you're not just inspired, but committed. Now let me give you the final truth, the darkest truth, the one that separates pretenders from practitioners. Being untouchable is lonely. Not lonely in the sad, victim sense. Lonely in the pioneer sense. You're walking a path that most people will never take, through territory that most people fear to enter, toward destinations that most people don't believe exist. That journey is, by definition, solitary. There will be nights when you question everything, when the old life looks appealing in memory, softened by time and distance, when the people you left behind seem warmer than they were, when the struggle seems endless and the destination uncertain. These moments are tests. The universe, or whatever force governs growth, will test your commitment repeatedly. It will offer you easy exits, comfortable compromises, socially acceptable forms of retreat. It will whisper that maybe you went too far, changed too much, demanded too much of yourself. In those moments, remember this. The old you is dead, and death is irreversible. You cannot go back. The bridge is burned. The door is locked. The grave is filled. Even if you tried to resurrect your former self, it wouldn't work. You know too much now. You've seen behind the curtain. You've tasted power and freedom and authenticity. You couldn't force yourself back into that small, frightened, approval-seeking version even if you wanted to. So the only path is forward, deeper into your transformation, further into your potential, higher toward whatever peak you're climbing. The loneliness isn't a bug in the system. It's a feature. It's the price of admission to extraordinary. It's the cost of refusing to settle for ordinary. And here's what makes it bearable. You become your own best company. When you've done the work of transformation, when you've rebuilt yourself on solid foundations, When you become someone you respect, you no longer fear being alone with yourself. In fact, you prefer it sometimes, because solitude becomes space for growth rather than punishment for failure. Silence becomes opportunity for reflection rather than noise that amplifies anxiety. You discover that being untouchable means being complete unto yourself, not in the false self-sufficiency of isolation, but in the genuine self-knowledge of someone who has done the internal work. You don't need external validation because you've validated yourself through action. You don't need permission because you've given it to yourself. You don't need approval because you've approved of who you've become. This is the final stage of transformation, self-authorization. You become the authority in your own life, not through arrogance or ignorance of your limitations, but through clear-eyed assessment of your capabilities, honest acknowledgement of your growth, and unwavering commitment to your continued evolution. You trust yourself because you've proven yourself trustworthy to yourself. Most people never reach this stage. They spend their entire lives seeking authorization from parents, partners, bosses, society. They wait for someone else to tell them they're good enough, ready enough, worthy enough. They outsource their self-concept to external validators who have neither the insight nor the investment to accurately assess them. You've taken that power back. You've reclaimed your right to define yourself, to judge yourself, to determine your own worth. This is what makes you untouchable. Not that you don't care what anyone thinks, but that you care most about what you think. And you build a self worth caring about. So what now? Where do you go from here? What does someone who is untouchable do with this power? You build, you create, you impact, you contribute. The point of becoming untouchable was never to hide from the world. It was to engage with it more fully, more authentically, more powerfully. You shed your vulnerabilities, not to retreat into fortress isolation, but to venture forth without fear. You killed your old self not to remain in darkness, but to be reborn into light. A light so bright it illuminates not just your path, but paths for others. You have a responsibility now to use what you learned, to share what you've discovered, to be the example that might inspire someone else to begin their own transformation. Not by preaching. Preaching is for those who haven't lived it. But by living so fully, so authentically, so powerfully that your life becomes a sermon. People are watching, even when you don't notice, even when you think you're alone. They are watching how you handle adversity, how you respond to setbacks, how you treat others while maintaining your boundaries, how you balance strength with compassion, power with responsibility, confidence with humility. You become the proof that transformation is possible. Now, make sure your life proves that transformation is worth it. Build something meaningful with your newfound power. Create something lasting with your liberated energy. Impact someone deeply with your hard-won wisdom. The old you consumed, the new you creates. The old you took, the new you gives. The old you feared, the new you inspires. This is the completion of the circle. You were transformed so you could transform others, not directly, not forcefully, but through example, through presence, through the undeniable reality of what you become. And when you meet others on this path, and you'll recognize them instantly, not by what they say, but by how they carry themselves, by the quiet confidence in their eyes, by the way they move through challenges that break ordinary people, by the untouchable quality that can't be faked, can't be taught, can only be earned through the crucible of complete transformation. These will be your true peers, your real family, not bound by blood or proximity, but by shared experience of death and rebirth. You'll speak a language together that others don't understand, the language of those who have faced themselves completely and emerged victorious. Cherish these connections when you find them. They're rare. Most people are still sleeping, still trapped, still running from the transformation that could set them free. But those who have awakened, who have broken free, who have transformed, they are your tribe, your witnesses, your proof that you're not crazy, not wrong, not alone in your refusal to settle for less than extraordinary. The old you is gone. What's left is untouchable. Remember this when doubt creeps in. Remember this when the path gets dark. Remember this when everyone around you is choosing the easy way and you're choosing the hard way. Again, remember this when your transformation demands more of you than you think you can give. You've already given everything once. You can do it again. You've already died once. You can't die twice. You've already faced your worst fear. Everything else is just detail. The person reading this, no, the warrior absorbing this. You are different now. Fundamentally, irreversibly, powerfully different. You are someone who chose transformation over comfort, growth over safety, truth over pleasant lies. You are someone who walked through hell because heaven on the other side was worth it. You are untouchable not because you're invulnerable, but because you've already survived what would destroy ordinary people. You are untouchable not because you don't feel, but because you choose what affects you. You are untouchable not because you're isolated, but because you're insulated by the strength of who you become. This is your reality now. This is your identity. This is your power. Don't waste it. Don't diminish it. Apologize for it. And above all, don't ever go back to being that small, frightened, approval-seeking creature you once were. That thing is dead. And what rose from its ashes is magnificent. Now go, build your empire. Live your truth. Be the evidence that transformation is not only possible, but inevitable for those brave enough to choose it. The old you is gone. What's left is untouchable. And that changes everything. Forever.